The story begins in Japan, in the year 2016. In Tokyo Bay, several Coast Guards are investigating an abandoned yacht. Inside the yacht, they find some strange documents, but there is no sign of any person. Suddenly, a massive explosion destroys the entire yacht. Because of this blast, water begins flooding into the Tokyo Bay Aqua Line underground tunnel, trapping many people inside. As the news spreads quickly, Cabinet Secretary Rondo Yaguchi calls an emergency meeting with several government officials, but no one understands what exactly is happening. However, Rondo has a different theory. He believes that all of this might be caused by a gigantic creature. Meanwhile, a rescue team is desperately trying to save the people trapped inside the tunnel. The civilians are terrified. Then suddenly, they hear a strange sound. And in the ocean nearby, they spot a massive creature rising from the water. It looks something like Godzilla. Japan's prime minister is closely monitoring the situation and holding meetings with scientists and political leaders. Some officials believe the incident might be caused by an underwater volcanic eruption, but Rondo still insists that a giant creature is responsible. At first, no one believes him. After all, no living creature could survive in temperatures over 100 degrees Celsius. But then, a gigantic tail suddenly emerges from the ocean. Everyone is shocked. Now the officials finally start believing Rondo. The government desperately wants to deal with the crisis, but they have no idea how to stop something like this. Japan has never faced a monster like Godzilla before. Meanwhile, the giant creature continues causing chaos in the ocean. Officials panic. A video of the creature is shown to environmental specialist Hiromi, hoping she can analyze it. After watching the footage, Hiromi reveals something alarming. The creature has legs, which means it can leave the ocean and walk onto land, destroying the entire city. The officials are terrified. Still, some believe the creature is too heavy to survive long outside the ocean. Soon after, the Prime Minister holds a press conference and informs the public about the mysterious giant creature. But things get worse. The creature suddenly emerges from the ocean and enters the city. Panic spreads everywhere. People start running for their lives. Godzilla moves forward, crushing buildings and houses in its path. Seeing the destruction, the Prime Minister and government officials become extremely worried. They've never faced a disaster like this before. To rescue civilians trapped in the city, the government forms an emergency rescue task force. The team quickly begins evacuating people from the danger zones. Meanwhile, Godzilla continues marching through the city, destroying everything around him, and something even more terrifying begins to happen. Because of the outside environment, Godzilla's body starts evolving. His size continues growing larger and larger. The government finally realizes that if this creature isn't stopped soon, the entire city could be destroyed. So the Prime Minister orders the formation of a military strike task force. Their mission is simple: eliminate the giant creature Godzilla. By now, Godzilla has fully developed his legs and stands even taller than before. Seeing this terrifying evolution, people become even more frightened. Soon, the military task force arrives, but just before they launch an airstrike, civilians appear in the area. If they attack now, innocent people would die, so the military is forced to hold their fire. Then something strange happens. Godzilla's body suddenly starts glowing, and moments later, the giant creature disappears, retreating underground. No one knows where it went. Because of this mystery, Rondo forms a special investigation team to study the creature. One of the team members asks an important question: what does this creature eat? That question gives everyone a realization. A creature this massive would need an enormous amount of energy, which means it might be absorbing nuclear radiation. And now the radiation levels in the area where Godzilla first appeared have increased dramatically. Even the locations Godzilla passed through are now showing dangerously high radiation levels. Using this information, Rondo and his team may finally have a way to track the monster. In the next scene, we meet Ann Patterson, an American agent who comes to speak with Rondo Yaguchi. She tells him about a Japanese scientist named Goro Maki. According to Ann, Maki had been researching the giant creature for years and likely knew far more about it than anyone else. After hearing this, Rondo quickly asks his intelligence team to gather information about Goro Maki. Soon they discover something shocking. Goro Maki had disappeared even before the giant creature appeared in the ocean, and the mysterious yacht that the Coast Guards discovered earlier actually belonged to Goro Maki. Ann then shows Rondo several research papers and documents left behind by Maki. From those documents, they learn the name of the creature, Godzilla. According to Maki's research, Godzilla is a mutated life form created by exposure to massive amounts of radioactive waste dumped into the ocean. However, there's still one thing that confuses Rondo's team: a strange chart left by Goro Maki. They cannot understand what exactly Maki was trying to explain, but while studying the data, the team notices something unusual. Godzilla's body temperature suddenly rises to extreme levels, and then later returns to normal. This leads them to an important theory. Godzilla may have some kind of internal reactor system inside its body, something that regulates its blood temperature depending on the situation. With this discovery, Rondo and his team come up with a risky plan. If they could somehow freeze Godzilla's blood, they might might be able to stop or even kill the monster. The proposal is sent to the Prime Minister for approval. Meanwhile, Rando and his team continue working tirelessly to make the plan possible. But before they can act, Godzilla suddenly emerges from the ocean again, and this time, he is even bigger and more powerful than before. The giant monster begins moving through the city, destroying everything in its path. Panic spreads everywhere. People run through the streets trying to save their lives. At the same time, the government is working with the military to evacuate civilians, but Godzilla keeps moving forward, heading straight toward Tokyo. Seeing the destruction, the officials are terrified. They decide they must stop Godzilla at any cost, so the military task force is sent to eliminate the monster. Soon the soldiers arrive and begin attacking Godzilla with machine guns, but the bullets do absolutely nothing. It's almost as if Godzilla's skin is completely bulletproof. Next, the military launches missile strikes. Still, no effect. They even attack with heavy military tanks, but Godzilla barely reacts. Finally, the task force activates its final strategy. Fighter jets launch powerful missiles directly at Godzilla. This time, the monster actually appears injured. The officials begin celebrating, but their relief lasts only a few seconds, because suddenly, Godzilla stands back up again, and now he's even angrier. He begins attacking the city with even greater force. During the chaos, many military personnel are killed, forcing the government to abort the operation. At this point, the United States steps in to help Japan. American air forces are sent to destroy Godzilla. Before launching the attack, the city is almost completely evacuated to prevent civilian casualties. Anyone still trapped in the city is ordered to stay underground for safety. Soon the American bombers arrive and launch extremely powerful missiles at Godzilla. The monster is injured once again. Everyone thinks this might finally be the end, but then Godzilla rises again, and this time, something terrifying happens. Godzilla's entire body begins glowing. Before anyone can react, Godzilla releases a blast of fire from his mouth, destroying everything around him, but the fire quickly transforms into a terrifying atomic beam. With this atomic ray, Godzilla begins slicing through buildings like they're made of paper. Trying to stop him, the American bombers prepare another missile strike, but Godzilla suddenly fires atomic beams from his back, destroying the bombers instantly. Both American aircraft are completely wiped out. Meanwhile, the situation becomes even worse. Seeing the destruction, the Prime Minister attempts to escape the city by helicopter, but at that exact moment, Godzilla fires another atomic beam. The beam hits the Prime Minister's helicopter directly. The helicopter explodes in midair, killing the Prime Minister instantly. And now, Japan has lost its leader in the middle of the most terrifying disaster in its history. Meanwhile, the entire area around Godzilla is burning in flames. After using so much atomic power, Godzilla's energy finally runs out, and the giant monster suddenly freezes in place. At this moment, most of Tokyo is heavily contaminated with radiation. Because of the extreme heat and radiation levels, the people hiding inside underground bunkers are ordered not to come outside. If they do, the radiation could kill them instantly. On the other side, we see Rando Yaguchi, who is deeply saddened by the Prime Minister's death. But despite the tragedy, Rando knows he must act quickly, so he decides to move forward with his original plan to defeat Godzilla. The plan is simple in theory: freeze Godzilla's blood. First, scientists extract a small cell sample from Godzilla's body. Using this sample, they hope to develop a special serum capable of freezing Godzilla's blood circulation. The cell sample is immediately transferred to a forensic laboratory for research. Meanwhile, Ann Patterson meets with Japan's new Prime Minister. She tells him that the United States is willing to help Japan defeat Godzilla. However, one Japanese government official immediately rejects the offer. This is because the American plan involves sending a massive Air Force strike against Godzilla, which could cause even more destruction to Japan. But Ann soon discovers something even more alarming. The UN Council has already formed a special international military task force. Their plan is to use nuclear weapons to destroy Godzilla. Ann quickly informs Rando about this decision. When Rando hears the news, he becomes extremely worried. A nuclear strike would not only kill Godzilla, it could also devastate Japan completely, and he absolutely does not want that to happen. Rando immediately gathers his team and tells them about the UN Council's plan. His team members are terrified, but Rando tries to calm them down. He tells them they still have a few days left. The UN Council has given time for civilians to evacuate the war zone, and during those few days, they must find a solution. Soon, one of Rando's team members brings good news. Scientists have successfully created a special serum from Godzilla's cells that could freeze his blood. However, there is a huge problem. Because Godzilla is so massive, they would need 672 liters of the serum to make the plan work. That's an enormous amount, but Rando's team refuses to give up. They immediately begin preparing for the operation. First, they order every chemical factory in the city to start producing the serum. Soon, the factories begin working non-stop. At the same time, the Japanese government continues evacuating civilians to safe locations. Because if the UN launches its nuclear attack, the entire city could be destroyed. Now the clock is ticking. Rando and his team must finish their plan before the world decides to destroy Tokyo along with Godzilla. Next, we see Rando's team carefully carefully studying Goromeki's research papers. At first, the documents are extremely confusing, but when the team starts folding the pages in different patterns and translating them with computer software, they finally understand what Maki was trying to explain. According to his research, Godzilla could be defeated by freezing his blood. Hearing this discovery makes Rando's team incredibly excited. Soon after, Rando meets with the Japanese military and explains his plan to stop Godzilla by freezing its blood circulation. The military leaders agree that the plan might actually work. However, there's still a huge problem. The UN Council is preparing to launch a nuclear missile attack on Godzilla very soon, but Rando's team still needs more time. So Rando asks Anne Patterson for help. Using her political influence, Anne manages to convince the UN Council to delay the nuclear strike for one more day. Now the fate of Tokyo depends entirely on Rando's plan. After days of non-stop work, the team finally prepares enough blood-freezing serum. Before starting the mission, Rando gathers his team and gives them an inspiring speech, motivating everyone to stay focused and face any challenge together. Then the operation begins. Rando and his team arrive at the location where Godzilla is still frozen in place. Because Godzilla is extremely tall, they come up with a unique strategy. First, they crash several trains directly into Godzilla's body, hoping to knock the monster down so they can inject the serum into his mouth. But the moment the trains collide, Godzilla suddenly wakes up, and once again he begins firing atomic beams from his back, killing many soldiers instantly. Seeing the danger, Rando's team launches a swarm of drones to distract and attack Godzilla. This forces Godzilla to use more of his energy. Slowly, his power begins running out again. At that moment, Rando's team activates the next stage of their plan. They detonate explosives inside nearby buildings, causing them to collapse on top of Godzilla. The massive structures fall and trap the monster underneath, forcing him to fall to the ground. Seeing this opportunity, the team quickly begins pumping the freezing serum into Godzilla's mouth, but just before the full amount can be injected, Godzilla starts moving again. To stop him, the team sends more trains crashing into Godzilla, knocking him down once again. This time, they finally manage to inject the entire amount of serum into his body. Godzilla struggles to stand up, but the serum begins freezing his blood circulation. Slowly, the giant monster becomes completely frozen in place. Seeing this, everyone cheers in relief. Rando's mission has finally succeeded. Because of this victory, the UN Council cancels the nuclear attack on Tokyo. Later, Anne's research reveals something surprising. Within a few days, Godzilla's body will completely shut down and decay, and exactly that begins to happen. Slowly, the monster's body starts breaking down, and with that, the terrifying disaster that once threatened Tokyo finally comes to an end. And this is where the movie concludes. If you enjoyed this recap, make sure to hit that like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more amazing movie stories explained in minutes, because the next story might be even more unbelievable than this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next recap.